Hey everyone, this is Rebecca, and today we're going to be making a breakfast casserole. I'm really excited to share this recipe with you. So this is something that we make fairly often, and we love it for like Christmas morning brunch and really just any time of the year. And right now we are getting tons of eggs from our chickens. They like to take a break in like October, November, and then they usually start back in January. And so they've started back laying, and we've got tons of eggs. And so I'm going to make this breakfast casserole for supper tonight, and I'm going to show you how I do it. So this is the ingredients we're going to be using. This is deer sausage, and I'm using hot. You can use whatever kind you like, but that's what we have, and so that's what we're going to use. I've got some bread here. This is some bread that's been out for a few days, and it's getting kind of dry, so that's going to be perfect for this recipe. We're going to do about 4 or so slices of bread cubed up. I've got a dozen eggs here. You can use 10 to 12 eggs. Sometimes my eggs are smaller, and you know, it's pretty forgiving recipe, so I usually use 10 to 12 or so. We've got some cheddar cheese we're going to grate up here, 2 cups of milk. So this is a dry mustard powder I like to mix with it. It just kind of gives it a little bit of an extra flavor. If you don't have the dry mustard, you can just use some regular mustard out of your fridge and squirt in there. Sometimes I'll put like spicy mustard in it or regular mustard. And then we've just got salt and freshly ground pepper. So I'm going to be putting this in my 9 by 13 pan. I'm going to butter the dish, and I like this one that has the lid on it because I can put the lid on it and put it in my fridge overnight and then pull it back out. I get started here by browning up my deer sausage, and I've got my skillet hot, and I did put a little bit of oil in there just because it needed a little bit more seasoning on it. And I'm just going to put this in here, break it up really good, and just get it all good and cooked up. So while our sausage is getting cooked up, we're going to go ahead and prep some of the other ingredients for the casserole. So I've got my 9 by 13 pan here. I'm going to go ahead and get that greased, and then I'm going to get my bread cut up and put in there. So I've got my 9 by 13 pan here, and I'm just going to go ahead and butter it real good, and then we're going to cut our bread up and put it in there. And you can use spray on this as well. I don't have any spray right now, and sometimes I just like to use butter anyways. So just want to get that real good and greased because those eggs like to stick really good. Our sausage is getting nice and done. We will let this finish up, and then we'll turn it off while we're working on our other stuff. Alright, so this is some bread. Like I said, it's gotten a little dry. It's a little past its prime, so it's going to be perfect for this. I have a recipe. This is einkorn bread, and I have a recipe for that. I also have a recipe for white bread. If you're looking for any of those, you can look back. There's some of my videos. When you're making, especially something that's whole grain or anything homemade, when you're making homemade bread like this, it's not going to last a super long time unless you add a bunch of preservatives and stuff, which I don't. And sometimes sourdough bread can last a long time, but, you know, it's best to just kind of freeze what you're not going to eat within the next 2 or 3 days. We don't typically have a problem with it because there's so many of us, but you just want to kind of keep that in mind because it's just going to be a little different, you know. That's why they have fresh bread, you know, at bakeries and stuff, because you would want to get the freshest possible. So and you know, you can always use bread that's a little bit older for toast and croutons and French toast and things like that. So I like to just use like 4 or 5 slices of bread. I mean, if you wanted this to be without any bread, you could do that as well. This just kind of bulks it up a little bit. So we're just gonna put this in our 9 by 13 pan. Like I said, if you want more than that, you can fill it up with some more. Sometimes I do more, sometimes I do less, but it's going to swell up with that mixture, so it's going to bulk up quite a bit. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and get my sausage, and I'm going to just spread it on top of the bread. Now you can see that this is actually still pretty hot. If I'm going to put this in the refrigerator, which is what I normally do, I let this cool, the sausage cool down first. Right now I'm kind of short on time because we're doing this for church tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and cook this. It is better if you let it sit overnight, but I'm going to go ahead and cook it. So I'm not too worried about the sausage being hot, because you just don't want the sausage too hot because it's going to go ahead and like cook your eggs and stuff. So I'm fixing to go ahead and put my cheese, and then we'll get our egg mixture and put it on there. I've got some extra sharp cheddar here that I'm using today. Cheddar is really good on here. I like cheddar. Sometimes we'll use like a Monterey Jack or like a Colby Jack, and that's really good too. I'm just going to grate up probably about 3/4 of this, just enough to make like 2 or 3 cups of cheese, and then we will spread that on top of the sausage, and then we're going to make up our egg and milk and mustard and salt mixture. So of course you could add some vegetables to this if you wanted to. I know you could do like onions and peppers or something like that. I find that with kids, a lot of times it's good to just keep things basic, and also just when you're trying to eat real food and you're trying to get something together, sometimes that can be more complicated anyways, and so just making simple recipes that are good and that are easy to put together just usually works out really good. So I'm just going to get all of our eggs in here. These are our beautiful eggs from our hens. I love the different colors. So we've had some laying these kind of greenish gray colored ones. I think they're really interesting. So we've been collecting these eggs fresh every day, and so I know that none of them have gone bad because they're all really fresh. So that's why I'm not putting them in a separate bowl. Sometimes you want to do that if you're unsure, but I knew all these were going to be good, so I went ahead and just cracked them in this bowl. I had one more I didn't see in there. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of bust up these yolks for a minute first, because it makes it a little bit easier to mix them all in together. These eggs were in the refrigerator, so they're going to be a little bit harder to mix up than if they were already out and at room temperature. So then I've got 2 cups of milk here. This is just a 2% milk, and I'm going to put all of that in there. And then we're going to do 1 teaspoon of this mustard powder and 1 teaspoon of salt. And then I'm just going to crack in some fresh ground black pepper. If you're a fan of black pepper and you haven't tried fresh ground yet, I know it's pretty popular nowadays, but I remember when we first got our pepper meal, this is actually the first one that we had gotten, and started doing fresh ground black pepper. It's so good. It's just got definitely a different flavor to it, and it's really good. So you can just put however much that you want in there, and then we're just going to whip it up and pour it over these eggs. Alright, we got that nice and whipped up. We're just going to pour it over this casserole here. And like I said, I would normally do this at night, leave it in the fridge for about 12 hours, but I'm going to go ahead and get this bacon in just a minute because we're going to have it tonight. So you just want to keep in mind that if you're baking it right away, it's not going to take as long to cook. If it's been sitting in the refrigerator overnight, it's probably going to take a little bit longer. It usually takes 50 to 60 minutes if I pull it out of the fridge and put it in the oven. And then it's probably today it's going to take about 45 minutes or so. Also, I like to take my casserole dish from the refrigerator and put it in the oven and then turn my oven on so they can kind of heat up at the same time together. It cooks at like 325, so it's not super hot. Since this is in a glass dish, you don't want to take it from like super cold to super hot all of a sudden. And that always works really good for me with my oven. So here's just an extra little tip for you. I've just used this cast iron skillet to cook my sausage in, and I know some people are like, they don't know how to take care of cast iron, and you know, like different people do it different ways, but I'm just going to show you. So most things are best taken care of when they're dirty right away, right? You might want to let it cool down a little bit, which this one wasn't super hot because it had already been cooling down. But if you can take care of dishes right away, then you're gonna less likely have a chance of stuff drying on there and getting gross. So I had put some oil in there just because this wasn't seasoned really good. And what I'm gonna do now is I have a brush that I use for my dishes, and I just scrubbed it out with that brush and some water, and you can see it's nice and clean and it's just still wet. So I've got my eye heated back up here, and I'm putting it on the eye, and that's just going to get it completely dried, and it's going to be kind of warm. I'll turn that down a little bit. Once it's completely dried and it's just sitting here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in some olive oil. I've got this light olive oil. You could use coconut oil, you can use whatever, but I like to use this light olive oil. And then I'm just going to take a paper towel, and I'm just going to rub it around in there, and then we'll let it sit here and cool, and you're seasoned and you're ready to go for the next time you use it. So you can see the casserole is all done now. You just want to make sure that middle gets nice and set and the eggs get cooked in the middle there. And then it's all finished, and you let it cool, and then you can eat it.
What?
You want to try our breakfast casserole?
I do. Oh yeah.
If you enjoyed this video, I'd love for you to like and subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much. Have a great day.